In this video, I'm going to talk about Chris Watts' relationship with Nichol Kessinger. So when a covert narcissist gets himself or herself into a relationship, the focus is on getting the partner to fall in love with the narcissist as soon as possible. So that's why a covert narcissist will be really intense at the beginning of a relationship, more intense than someone who isn't a narcissist. And quoting song lyrics or quoting poems is something that a narcissist will often do when they're first trying to lure somebody in. You know, that and writing all over their Facebook page how amazing they are, just filling them with loads of compliments all the time. And the reason for this, there are two reasons for this. One of them is that a covert narcissist will genuinely put someone on a pedestal in his own mind or her own mind, because they believe that this person is finally going to give them the love that they have always needed. And unconsciously the love that they didn't get from their mother. You know, so they absolutely adore this person without really knowing them, because it's not the person that they adore, it's what they think they're going to get from this person, you know, the adoration they're going to get back. The second reason that a covert narcissist is very intense at the beginning of a relationship is to get you so involved that when their true selves come out, when the mask slips, you're going to stay with them. And, you know, a covert narcissist knows that they can't keep that mask up for very long and that it's going to slip. And if he can get his new partner to be besotted with him, then that means that he's going to be able to get away with being abusive, even if at first it's just for a very short amount of time, and that this new partner is going to still come back to them because they're so in love with them. So with Shanann, we know that the neighbour said that when they argued, Chris would go crazy with rage. And we also know that Shanann was often writing really complimentary stuff about Chris online. To the point where, you know, it happened so often that I kind of found myself wondering, why does she feel like she needs to do that? And those two things make me think that he was in the devaluation phase with her before this you know, the last couple of weeks before her death that we know about. You know, we know how he treated her then. But my feeling is that he would have alternated between idealising her or love bombing her and devaluing her or degrading her. The first idealisation phase might be real, and so in the case with Nichol Kessinger it would have been real, but after the narcissist realises that his partner is just a human being and they're not going to give them unconditional love all the time, after that the idealisation phase becomes something to keep them there. So that between the times of abuse, the victim will stay with them because of this idealisation phase. So let's have a look now then at how Chris Watts and Nichol Kessinger started their relationship. So on the 12th of June, Nichol Kessinger wrote an email to Chris Watts, and this is what it said. It said, "I'm looking for someone to build a beautiful life with. Seems so simple, but it is so unrealistic sometimes. Build something similar to what you have done with your wife and those cute little girls. I do believe in karma, so out of respect for myself, you and your family, I think it's best if we keep our friendship at work." So what I've taken from that is that at this point, on the 12th of June, they hadn't slept together. You know, it doesn't sound like the relationship has gone from beyond platonic at this point. And I know that people have been saying that, you know, colleagues were saying that they were flirting a long time before this, I think months before this, and that could well be true. But they weren't, in my opinion, sleeping together, and they weren't close either. I've heard that they were sleeping together in the beginning of July, but even if that's not true, and even if they were sleeping together from the day after she sent him this email, that would be the 13th of June, And less than 3 weeks after that, Chris sent her this card. At the top of the card, he's quoted some song lyrics from the song Take You There by Through the Roots. Your energy is so insane, you heat me up and make me melt, and then you cool me down like rain. And in this card of the 3rd of July, he also wrote, big things will happen this year, dreams will come true. And then he also writes, that smile, that stare, that laugh, that giggle gets me every time. So already things are getting really intense, within such a short space of time, he's quoting song lyrics. So on July the 30th, this is, about 6 weeks, isn't it? I think that's about 6 weeks after they first slept together. He gave her 2 cards. One of them he made himself, which is again, very personal and intimate, and one of them he bought. So on one of them he says, wow, where do I even start? The first day I saw you, you took my breath away. The first day I had the guts to talk to you, I got lost in those stunning green eyes. The first day we hung out in the park together, I knew I was addicted. The first time we kissed, I knew I had met the most amazing, unique and electric woman ever. We have a lot of firsts together, Nikki, and I want to keep having them with you. That's something we can come back to later when he talks about firsts, I know that people have talked a lot about how, Nichol sort of wanted a sort of beginning with him and not to be in a ready-made family. So that's something we'll come back to. And then he ends the letter quoting another song lyric from Kane and Smith. And this was, all night till the sun comes back, I wanna love you like that. And this is, 6 weeks or so after they first slept together. So Chris was sending these very intense messages to Nichol really early on in the relationship. He was looking for jewellery for her when he was in North Carolina. Before he left, they went on this camping trip together. He was already planning another holiday that they were going to take. And Nichol was looking at photos of wedding dresses. I don't think she would have been searching for wedding dresses if he hadn't been giving her the idea that might well be a possibility that they'd get married, And I'm saying that based on the way he was generally, and the way that covert narcissists are, the way that they will behave as if this new person is just the most amazing thing that's happened to them, and that they're completely in love almost straight away, and that's what his messages were saying. They were just complete adoration, when he was saying that he dared talk to her and everything, like she's some kind of goddess. That's how things started with them. Chris Watts carried on his relationship with Nichol while he was still communicating with Shanann, who was in North Carolina at the time. So he was, he wasn't in touch as much as she was expecting. He was always making excuses for why he wasn't ringing her and so on. But when we look at the phone records in those discovery files, we can see that just how sneaky he was, that he'd have this conversation with her and then he'd immediately be on the phone to Nichol, or he'd be on the phone to Nichol and then contact Shanann and say that he fell asleep on the couch. If someone has an affair, you'd expect that they might feel some degree of guilt, but with Chris Watts, he was able to immediately switch between the two people and behave completely normally, that suggests to me there wasn't any conscience in it, there wasn't any guilt about it, which would make sense for a covert narcissist. When they were in North Carolina, Shanann was very upset at the way that Chris was behaving, and she wasn't able to sleep, and she texted him something along the lines of, how are you able to sleep when everything's falling apart, and this is something Chris was able to do because he could just completely switch off from Shanann now that he'd found her replacement. And that's how it works for a covert narcissist. You know, they'll put all of their attention on one person, and then when better supply comes along, which is, you know, a better ego boost for them, more you know, the person is infatuated with them back, which is common at the beginning of a relationship, and so, you know, then it's very easy to just discard the last person, and it doesn't matter how many years they were married. He could easily just switch off from Shanann. I won't even say switch off his feelings, because I don't believe he had any genuine feelings for her. You know, I think the whole time she was just doing what he needed. You know, she was reacting emotionally, whether that was in a good way or whether it was when he would have triggered her when he was yelling at her. You know, she served a function for him, and that was it. People have asked me if I think Nichol was a narcissist. I don't have enough information to answer that. I do think it was strange how, you know, her general tone of voice in the police interviews, how she didn't seem distraught about what Chris Watts had done. You know, she seemed more focused on making sure that she wasn't held responsible in any way. And I can understand, obviously, that she'd be nervous, but it did seem strange to me. There did seem to be something quite cold about her. And she was also involved with someone who was married. She knew that he was married. She told police she was telling him to fix his marriage in North Carolina, but we know that at the same time she was sending him naked pictures of herself. So she obviously wasn't really wanting him to try to fix his marriage. You know, so she did seem sort of generally quite self-centered and quite a cold person, but that's really as much as I'm able to know about her, because we have quite limited information on her. So there were a lot of text messages between Chris and Nichol Kessinger, and Nichol deleted those messages before she spoke to the police, and there's been a lot of you know, a lot of people have something to say about that. And I don't want to suggest that her deleting the text was innocent, you know, because I don't know that it was innocent. And from the way that she did seem to be covering something up in the police interviews, it may well not have been innocent. In the UK, we wouldn't be given the text messages from somebody, regardless of whether the person was already pleading guilty and you know, was in prison or not. The amount of information that was revealed in this case was very different to what would be allowed in the UK. It did just make me think that, you know, if there were lots of naked photos, as we've been told that there are, and you know, sexual text messages, then she might not have wanted everyone in the public to see those. Having said that, I do think from the police interviews that she seems to be missing out information. She seems to me to be covering up for something, because she's just very keen to talk about how much she loved she loves the idea of somebody who already has children and all of this, where we already know that she told one of her friends that she didn't want to be in a relationship with someone who already had a family. She also suggested to police that it was frustrating waiting for the kids to be put to bed in order to speak to Chris again. And so, you know, it does sound like she's obviously, you know, she didn't want to be a stepmother. That wasn't her ideal way to be in a relationship with somebody. I imagine that she may have put pressure on Chris to be single, you know, that she wouldn't want to, you know, that there's only so far a relationship can go when someone's still married. But in terms of the children, you know, a lot of people are very angry with her because she had made this comment that she wouldn't want a ready-made family. But at the end of the day, you know, if a regular man who isn't a narcissist meets somebody who doesn't want children, who are, you know, doesn't want to be a stepmother, it's not going to cross his mind that, okay, then I'm just going to kill mine, you know. So So I don't believe that, from the information we currently have about Nichol Kessinger, I don't believe she played a role in the murders. It was Chris Watts's choice to obviously to wipe out his family, and I think that the fact that Nichol wasn't excited by him having children would have made Chris think that they just weren't performing the role that they had been performing before. Before they were useful in making him look like a good person and a good father, but now they were actually putting someone off him. I do think that Nichol's views on Chris's children would have been some kind of motivation for him to get rid of them, because he didn't want to risk losing her. So I hope that was helpful. It's obviously a very depressing subject. I know that people have strong feelings about Nichol and the role that she played in this. What I wanted to get across in this video is more about the way that Chris Watts functioned, and the way a narcissist can very easily swap one person for another. They won't usually end a relationship before beginning a new one. They'll often just literally swap one source of supply for another. Luckily, most narcissists are not also sociopaths, and they're not going to wipe out their whole family. But anyway, it would be great to hear your comments in the comment section, what you think, and please subscribe. The next video is going to be about when Shannon came home from North Carolina. Thank you for watching.